Hello, happy Wednesday. I'm your host, Jason Freeman. Welcome to episode 123, episode 123. And that would have had more effect if you could see my fingers of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Today, I'm excited to learn from my guest who's chosen a phenomenal path. Hey, life brings every one of us challenges, a unique set of challenges, and we have a choice of how we respond to a unique set of challenges. And my guest today has, oh my gosh, has he ever responded powerfully? So, with that, be back in a sec.
Today's guest, Terry Liggins.
Let me tell you a little bit more about Terry Liggins. Actually, check this out. Terry Grateful Liggins. He's the Hurdle Life Coach. He helps special populations, at-risk youth, adults in reentry, people in recovery, and young professionals confidently face the hurdles before them. Terry is wonderfully suited for this work, not only as a national champion hurdler in college, but as a man who has surmounted a great many hurdles in his own life. He believes that leadership begins with role modeling and recognizes that a person's sphere of influence can be a force for good. His faith in God and people fuels his desire to be a helping hand in a world full of individuals, families, and communities in need. Please, without further ado, help me welcome Terry Liggins to the show.
Hey, Jason.
Hey.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Terry. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. When we met almost a month ago, and you approached me after that presentation I had on empathy building and psychological safety, I was just thrilled that you will approach me with such curiosity, admiration, and respect. And when I found out that you had a podcast, it was an easy yes for me. I'm like, absolutely, I would love to support you and what you're doing. So I'm happy that this day has finally come.
Me too. It's just I'm so excited to learn from you, and you already have a great person, Bob Donnell, showing you on. He's in California or traveling the country, and I want to start learning from you. When we met and you gave an excellent presentation, just opened my mind so much. But when we met, you didn't tell me that your chosen middle name was Grateful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me why that Grateful is so important to you that you would put it in your middle name. Put
Yeah.
it as your middle name, I mean.
Well, thank you for that. It's so interesting that you would catch that as well. I have another really dear friend of mine in our community. Her name is Michelle LaValle, and she's the CEO of Children's Home Society here in South Dakota, and she loves that too. And the reality is, grateful. I have chosen that to be able to embody as who I am, because I went through a transformation and I went through a transition about 7 years ago in my life where I was coming out of a darker place in my life. A treatment experience was involved with it. And I really got some mental health support that I didn't have the privilege to have access to throughout my entire childhood, young adulthood. And so this was about at 30 years old, I was coming out of this time in my life. And prior to being Terry Grateful Liggins, I was Terry Successful Liggins on Facebook. My pursuit used to be about what it would be to succeed in life. You know, coming from a background where there was a lot of deprivation in finances, in relationships. I come from a single parent home. I grew up in an inner city, very, not middle class, not wealthy. And I wanted to succeed. And I had this perception of success, which was to, do well in school and be a high performing athlete and all the traditional things that people would kind of put in the picture of what success was. Well, when I went through that experience 7 years ago and all those things were stripped away from me and I didn't have those material things to hold on to, what I found was gratitude was the true aim. That when I focused on gratitude, what it gave me was a peace that success never could or never will, or at least a perception of success. And so now each day I lead with gratitude. I lead with humility. I lead with honesty. And I no longer exist to succeed. I exist to be grateful. Terry Grateful Liggins.
You exist to be grateful.
Yes.
So, that's amazing. So some of the, when I asked for words to describe how you would describe yourself in words now, you said ambitious, driven, highly motivated, enthusiastic, positive, smart, intelligent, resilient, high performer, compassionate, caring, generous, empathetic.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate your way from a childhood that might have, or that was a different experience often than those words, towards where you are now, and towards really embracing those words that are those words speak of life at its highest. And
yeah,
how did you decide to navigate instead of just staying where you were?
Jason, when I think about my childhood and the challenges that were there, again, I mentioned single parent home. My mother, Cynthia, did the very best she could. She worked 2 jobs and I didn't see a lot of her because of that. But when I did see my mother was very hospitable and fun loving and generous and kind. Also, the environment being low income, a low income family, we needed to develop some of the attitudes and perspectives of gratitude and generosity and sharing is caring. I come from a background where it didn't matter how much you had, it was just that you shared what you had. And so with my 5 other siblings, we would split whatever amount we had. It was never about how much it was just the principle of sharing it equally. So
it didn't matter how much you had. It just mattered that you shared what you had.
Yep. So honestly, what happened is these attributes I've already had inside of me. They were required for me to survive the low income, single parent home environment, also with the drugs and the violence and the gangs in North Omaha. I grew up in North Omaha. And so the ways I describe myself ambitious, high performing, driven, and motivated. These were the things that were required to survive my childhood. And so I look back with the thankfulness of those hard experiences, not that I will wish them upon anyone or that I didn't have challenges because of it, but I also was very much blessed and gifted with the attitudes of that I describe myself because of the adversity I had to endure in my childhood.
Hey Tim, thanks for watching from the woods in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Hey Joe, you're awesome, bro. Thanks for watching from California. So your mom sounds simply brilliant and me, like raising 5 kids and working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
How did she find enough hours in the day to do that? Holy man.
Yeah. You know, that's where we leaned upon each other as siblings. You know, it was 6 of us, and my oldest sister, her name is Tranisa. You know, she took on a lot of responsibility as a young girl. You know, being 12 years old and then having an 11-year-old brother, a 8-year-old brother, a 7-year-old brother, a 5-year-old sister, and a 2-year-old sister. She was then left with the responsibility of overseeing us a lot of times while my mom was at work. But we became such a tight-knit sibling core because of that. And it's such a gift even today to have an amazing relationship with my siblings. Not that any of us are perfect and that any of us have gotten it right all the time, but man, are we good at forgiving each other, having each other's back, and just knowing that we are required to be there for each other, because in the end, that's what we have is family. It's God, then family, and then community.
Lynn from Montana, amazing to see you. Thanks for being here, Lynn, and you're a great podcast. I want to get on again sometime. It's so wonderful. So what would you say are some common misconceptions people have about the experience of poverty if they haven't lived that experience?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And it really reminds me of a field of study that I'm trained in educating on, and that field of study is called ACEs. This is very important. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And the
Adverse childhood experiences.
Yep. And the ACE study is something that was conducted back in the early 90s by Dr. Robert Anda and Dr. Vincent Folletti. And what they discovered in this ACE study with their population of over 18,000 participants, that's
a huge study. Holy man.
Yeah, it is. It's good and it's valid. It's legit. And what they discovered is that there's a correlation between adversity in childhood and a lot of the different life outcomes that we will see in our individual lives and in our public health. And so that there is a connection between ACEs and suicide, ACEs and workforce engagement, ACEs and obesity, ACEs and truancy, ACEs and so substance use. It just goes on and on and on. How what the study determined is that these events in childhood correlate with who we become as adults and how we see the world and how we see ourselves. ACEs are so common. ACEs consist of things like parental separation or divorce, having a parent who has a substance use disorder or challenge, having a family member who has been involved with the justice system, various forms of abuse and neglect that we wish didn't exist in the world, but absolutely do in the households of so many people, whether that's physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. And this is just some of the ACEs. from the study. Then it goes further to say there are ACEs that happens in our communities, and there are ACEs that happens in our schools and our workplaces. And ACEs, again, is just adversity and it's high spikes of stressful events. And that stress has an impact on our brain and on our bodies and in how we perceive the world. Now, here's the answer to your question. A person might perceive that if a person has an ACE, then they are doomed and destined for a life of challenges and hardships. That's not the case. That is not the case. ACEs are not destiny. ACEs are just
ACEs are not destiny. I had to celebrate that. Wait, the ACEs are not destiny.
yes.
Continue. I just had to celebrate what you just said. It gives me goosebumps.
So good. ACEs are not destiny. ACEs are just events that happen to us. We don't choose them. That's the other thing. The reason why we should have compassion towards an ACEs impacted youth or an ACEs impacted adult is because that individual, that human being didn't choose for that to happen to them. That is something that they didn't choose. It just happened to them. So ACEs are just events, and events shape our realities. But out of those ACEs comes the opportunities to develop resilience, faith, hope, courage, bravery, all the things that serve us well as adults comes from getting through adversity. So ACEs aren't destiny. They can be understood. They can be accepted. And as you accept that hurt people, that even though I was hurt by my mom and by my dad and by the abandonment, that they too have their own history of ACEs, and hurt people, and healed people, help people. So now as I heal in my journey, I'm able to forgive my mother, my father, and anyone else who has hurt me, forgive myself, and actually arrive at a place of peace because of my understanding of ACEs and resilience.
Amazing how you amazing how you said that, and I we want to get to your healing journey because it's so important. But first, there's a few more questions before that.
Yeah.
So if I had known young Terry at 7 years old and asked him at age 7 what he wanted to be when he grew up, what would he have said?
Oh, that's another good question. It's so far from who I am today, but it still speaks to, I guess, who I was then. But I remember being asked that question as a youth, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And I think for the longest time, I said I wanted to be a firefighter. I don't know why. I don't know what it was about. I think when I think about some of the research and things now, there's something about living in dangerous environments that causes young people to want to be protectors. And so I think with the type of environment I was growing up in, with the gang violence and the gun violence, something about 7-year-old Terry wanted to protect people from being hurt and harmed, and being a firefighter was what it is that I said I wanted to be when I was a young person.
That actually gives me more goosebumps. I'm going to have goosebumps all over by the time we're done, but it occurs to me as that you, as a Hurdle life coach, you help people protect themselves in another way. It's not running into a burning fire with a hose, but it's a whole nother type of helping someone see their life in a different way so they can move towards protection rather than down another path.
I didn't make that connection. I like it. I'm still fighting fires, aren't I?
Yeah. Wow.
That's cool.
Um, and then just briefly, what was high school like for you?
High school was hard too. I mean, I can't sit here and say that my childhood was easy. Um, I can sit here and say that it helped to shape who I am today, but I can't sit here and say that it was easy. And one of the things that really made it challenging and difficult is 8 days after my 15th birthday, I became a dad. So
Mm.
my oldest child of my three children is 22 years old. I'm 37. And when it comes to high school, I was already a dad by the time I was a sophomore in high school, and that really changed a lot for me as it pertained to who I was. I became a dad. I was no longer just a 15-year-old boy. I was a dad,
You
and
you talked about your 12-year-old sister having a lot of responsibility.
yeah,
Then suddenly you had a lot of responsibility, more responsibility at 15. Wow.
yeah,
What
and
what is that like?
I wasn't equipped. I can tell you that, Jason. I didn't have the tools to be a good dad at 15 years old. I didn't have a biological father to role model anything from. My environment was filled with people that were not necessarily the best influence in the way that they lived their lives. And I really had to figure this thing out the hard way through trial and error. And for most of my oldest's childhood, I made more mistakes than I'd like to admit. I'm very embarrassed by some of the choices I made as a young parent. But I look back and I recognize that I could only operate based on the level of information and awareness that I had at the time. You know,
Hmm.
I know much more about empathy and compassion and patience and all these other things that I carry today that I did not carry at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I was present. I was giving my best effort, but I was so uninformed that I made choices as a dad that I wish I could undo that I can't. But what I have done is now in my new awareness, I've humbled myself to my oldest son. I've apologized for the things that I wish I would have known then that I know now. And we've been able to heal because of that empathy, because of that humility, and because of that awareness. But I say that to say in high school, it was hard because I was already a dad and I was still growing up in that environment with so much temptation around to join gangs and to do drugs and alcohol. And sadly, I participated in all of those things. And I found myself in juvenile detention, on juvenile probation. But again, I look at those experiences as things that have shaped me to be as motivated as I am today to provide support for young people like young Terry going through the same thing I was going through back in Omaha, but now I do that here in South Dakota at Her to Life Coach Foundation.
That's all powerful, but you said that we can only operate on the level of the information we
Yep.
have.
Yep.
That's so important for each of us to remember because it's easy to look at the past and be like, oh my gosh, why did I do that thing? But
Yep.
we're all learning as we go.
Yep. Yep. And then you can forgive yourself for those choices you made, knowing that you still gave your very best in that moment. You can
Hmm.
only ask for your best effort. If you're giving your best effort, no matter how much you know or you don't know, that's all you can do is give your best effort. And now, from this place of unknowing, pursue knowledge, pursue information, be a learner, and raise your awareness that you can be a better version of whatever it is you're working to be better at.
That's huge. So well said. For for the listeners who haven't been involved or haven't not involved is not the right word, but who haven't been in the criminal justice system,
Yeah,
what was what's the base some basic lessons about what 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 being forced to be part of that system is like?
yeah. Thank you
Does
for
that make sense?
it does, and thank you for the question because a big part of my work now is helping community to understand what does the administration of justice look like, um, and what is the value, what is the purpose. When we talk about our justice system, it's a system of accountability. It exists to hold people accountable who have hurt or harmed people. It exists to ensure that neighbors and citizens and society has a sense of public safety, that they're protected, and
Mm.
those are good things. And we ought to be grateful for our law enforcement officers, our judicial officials and judges and prosecutors and lawyers and defense attorneys, and even our Department of Corrections and those wardens and the correctional officers. All of them play a role in helping keep us safe. But here's the thing, Jason. We can talk about cops, courts, and corrections as 3 C's to the administration of justice, but there's a 4th C, and the 4th C is community. Community also plays a role in the administration of justice. And this is where we often fail people who have been impacted by the system, because when they release from that time away, after they've been held accountable, after they've done their time in juvenile detention or county jail or state prison or federal prison, they're released back into the community as neighbors. And how we respond to them continues to perpetuate the same type of behaviors and mindsets that got them incarcerated in the first place and other people hurt. And so how we receive formerly incarcerated adults and youth is a big opportunity for us. And we've got ground to cover there as well. Just like
So first, generally, how are we responding to people on upon their reentry?
generally, we're responding with fear, Jason. All
Mm.
of a sudden, we think that someone who has been incarcerated is a bad person, a mean person, a violent person, felon, addict, convict. All of these things don't serve us in our perception of how to receive another human being. There is not one person listening to your podcast right now and the sound of my voice that can raise their hand and say that they got it right 100% of the time. Not one person.
That's so true.
There is not
That's so true.
there's not one person who can say that they haven't made a mistake that they wish that they could, do over. That's all that a justice impacted person is. They're a person who made a poor choice. They're not a bad person. They're not evil, but we treat them like that and then we push them away. We say that you only can live in this part of the community. You only can work in these types of jobs. Here are the hoops and hurdles you need to jump through to prove that you're worthy of something that you're inherently worthy of. Dignity,
Mm.
that's inherent. We're all inherently worthy of dignity, no matter the choices we've made. But for those who come out of jail and prison, they're not treated with that dignity. So we continue to.
So how as a society can we grow in this area? Like, s- like say I served my sentence and was released.
Mhm.
How would you like to see people respond to my reentry?
The first thing I want to see is people change their language. I want people to change their language with how they speak about that person. because however you label someone tells you how you're going to treat them.
However you label someone tells you how you're going to treat them.
Yep. If I say that person is an addict, then I'm going to treat them with whatever my mind tells me I should do with an addict. But if I tell myself that person is a re-entering mother,
oh my gosh, I can just hear the difference at a almost subhuman to re-entering mother.
yes,
Very, very human. Re-entering mother's a neighbor.
yes, 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 yes. So anyone that's involved with receiving someone who has been involved with the justice system, you have to see them as a human being, not convict, not felon, not addict. You got to see them as a mother, as a father, as a neighbor, and as a potential employee, right? A contributor to our society, a leader. It will change how you interact with them based on how you label them. So the first thing I would want to see people is change their language with how they speak about to the justice impacted. Secondly, I would invite people to advocate. Now, you can use your own influence to speak up and advocate for more acceptance, more inclusion, more belonging for that marginalized population. If you say nothing and do nothing, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And inaction is still an action. Silence is a form of acceptance. So if you're not speaking up and saying that's not right to only allow people to live in this certain part of the community, or that's not right to not hire them because of a decision that they made 10 years ago based in desperate conditions. So now the second thing is becoming an advocate and challenging the people that are in your sphere of influence to be more inclusive and accepting of that particular population.
As you talk, this also gets to the core concept of being able to forgive and allow someone to move forward instead of being stuck with a mistake. I mean, I make mistakes all the like just before this call. I thought I sent you I thought I sent you an email, but then forgot to send it.
Yeah.
Imagine if you were like, Jason, I'm never going to, not only never going to talk to you again, I'm going to go to the other side of the street every time I see you because you made that mistake. There's no forgiveness for you, Jace.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And that's how we treat people who have been to jail and prison for the most part. I'm not saying that that's absolute. I'm not saying that there aren't efforts in place to try to, affect the recidivism rate. And the recidivism rate is how often someone goes back to jail or prison after they're released. And sadly, 2/3 of the population that is released from jail and prison go back within 3 years because we failed them as a community. It's not only their responsibility to have the individual willpower to succeed. We ought to wrap around them as a community of lovers and believers who believe in loving our neighbors and helping out our friends and creating a safe community. We also fail them when we don't partner with their individual will. It's not just their fault that they go back. Our community has an opportunity to impact how many people go back to prison and jail and who stays out. I've been out 7 years now. I've been out 7 years. I went through the system again as an adult. I went as a juvenile and I went as an adult. And part of the reason why I went back as an adult is because I didn't have the mindset, I didn't have the mental health, I didn't have the mentorship that I have today. So the community has wrapped around me and has helped me to stay out of prison now for 7 years. And look what I'm doing with the time that I've been given in my second chance.
Oh. So hi Dale Santel. Dale says hi from Texas. You're drawing people from all over the country to this, Dale.
That's so
It's
cool.
amazing.
That's so cool.
Craig. Oh, good to see you, Craig. It's been a long time, man. Great to see you. So, is it a co-responsibility that the community shares with the individual re-entering? Like, what if you were to talk to? Oh, I mean, you do, but if you were to talk to someone who was re-entering this week, what would you tell them about their responsibility to work with? How can they improve the odds of success for themselves and for the community?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense with that.
Yeah.
But.
No, you're doing a great job. To not be a justice educator, you're tracking this conversation very well. And I really appreciate you spending some time in this space with me, and inviting me here to talk about this, and for your listeners who are hearing this, because the recidivism rate, this is across the country. This isn't only in South Dakota that we have an issue with people being released from jail and prison and committing crime again. This is all over. And so this conversation is so pertinent to our country, and you are giving me a space to talk about that, and I really am thankful for that. And I'll tell you, when I speak with people that are coming out, because they do have a responsibility, let me be clear, they are not excused from their responsibility to still be healthy, balanced, responsible, safe individuals. Community has a role, but certainly that individual has a role as well. And the things I work on with people I'm supporting is, one, if you're going to blame someone for what you just went through, I have a mirror for you, and that person in the mirror is where you point the finger. Let's not get so lost in the system and racism and prejudice and all these other things that certainly are real, but to consume yourself with that being the reason why you ended up in prison and jail is not going to serve you best. What's going to serve you best is for you to hold yourself accountable for the choice you made, and realize that action has consequences, and that the consequence that you experienced was a consequence that you earned. So I first hold them accountable to holding themselves accountable, and not blaming other people or conditions for what happened to them. That's one. The second thing is, if you're going to succeed, it's going to be because you are willing to receive help from other people. Nothing great in life was ever achieved alone.
Not my job. Nothing great in life was ever achieved alone.
That's right. That's right. Teamwork makes the dream work, and it's cliche, but it's true. So what is required for success in reentry is humility. Humility is the attitude that says, I need help, I'm willing to ask for it, and I'm open to receiving it. And so now I'm coaching individuals on humility. And how can you humble yourself and go ask for that community resource? Go sign up for that program. Go and let yourself be helped, and don't try to succeed in your reentry alone. That's number two. Number three, be grateful and stay grateful. right? Gratitude turns what we have into enough. When we are in our gratitude, we can see the abundance of everything that we currently possess. It's when we are out of our gratitude that we start to think what we don't have, and we start to live in a frustration and an anxiety of what we don't possess, when gratitude helps you see all that you do have in your possession today. And you need to be there. You need to be inside of your daily gratitude and thankful for whatever the job is. It may not be your dream job. It's going to be a process. My first job when I got out was not this job. My first job when I got out was paid me $10.50 an hour. And this is a person who had a bachelor's and a master's degree, because we didn't speak about that yet. I went
No.
to incarceration after I went to college, after I succeeded in college as an athlete and as a student, got a bachelor's and a master's, then went to prison, went to treatment, got out, and my first job was $10.50 an hour. I was grateful. I was grateful for that $10.50 an hour. So I have to then coach those in reentry to say, this is temporary, and this is a stepping stone, and this is an opportunity for you to develop a new mindset, a new mind frame of humility and gratitude, accountability, and then finally, honesty. Be honest. And now through that, I help them to communicate their feelings, how they're feeling, things like that with honesty. But Jason, that's what I coach people on. I coach them on accountability, humility, gratitude, and honesty.
We have a lot to cover and need to move on, but thanks for tuning in, Jeff. And then what would you tell someone who's like Terry, I'm really having trouble forgiving myself for committing the whatever crime I committed in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Such another good question. I think it's important to share with that person that you are not defined by the worst decision that you've ever made.
You are not defined by the worst decision you have made. Oh my gosh.
It says more about who you are with how you respond to what happened to you, not what happened to you. Remember, I'm going to get fired up now, Jason, because so many people have ACEs. So many people have been abused and neglected and abandoned. And so many people have made poor choices and gone to prison and jail. But it is not adversity that creates character. It's adversity that reveals your character. And it says more about you with how you respond to the choice you made, not the choice you made. We all have made poor choices. Every one of us are human and imperfect and unfinished. What really matters is how you respond. Have you apologized? Have you addressed the things that caused you to make that decision in the first place? Have you put down the drugs and alcohol and guns? Have you removed the negative people associations that were in your life? Did you change since then? That was 10 years ago. That was 5 years ago. You're not that same person. So let that person go and see how far you have come since then, how much you have changed since then. And let me show you your resilience, your bravery, your courage, your persistence. And let's talk about who you are based on how you've responded, not because of what you did.
I talked about the power of doing your imperfect best, and what you're talking about is very much doing your imperfect best, acknowledging the imperfection, dealing with it, and moving forward.
Yes, sir. How you respond says a lot more about who you are than what you did.
So being this all is magical. We don't have much time, but somehow you left, but somehow you got from an extremely rough time in high school, not only got to USD, University of South Dakota, but you became a championship hurler, and then you became president of the student body. How did you do that in such a short period of time? Holy man.
You know, it's some of this stuff, Jason, I just have to chalk up to God had a real interesting plan for my life, because I can take some credit for, my personality and my ambition, but some of this stuff is just I can't even explain it. And I just really thank God that I was able to have the opportunities that I had to compete as an athlete in college, to be a first generation college student and be able to study criminal justice, leadership studies, communications, and nonprofit administration. And I just really am humbled by it all. There was a time where that stuff would blow my head up and really make me feel like I was something special. But today, I recognize that it is God that is good, and God has blessed me with so many opportunities to reveal who I am in the world and not be defined by the things that happened to me, but how I responded to them. And so I just thank God for those opportunities, Jason, and I continue to thank God for the opportunities that continue to be presented for me in very serendipitous, unexplainable ways.
So you got a college degree, a master's degree, and now tell me about your two companies.
Yeah. So, all things considered, I've been able to, you're going to like this, make it out of the fire. I've been able to make it out of the fire.
Oh, I see what you did there. I see what, very nice.
I've been able to make it out of the fire. And, now that I've come out of the fire and I have survived all of the adversity that I experienced as a as a teenage parent, single parent home, and some of these other things that I went through, I now get to lead a nonprofit called Hurdle Life Coach Foundation. And at Hurdle Life Coach Foundation, our mission is to provide and to help create safe spaces for ACEs impacted and justice impacted people. Now, we've already talked about ACEs and the justice system, so everyone knows what I mean when I say that. So we get to provide after school group coaching programs for youth and diversion, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, group of 8 to 15 students. And we're talking with them about life skills, job skills, and character. And then we also get to do that same thing for adults as well in transition. And that's through our change program. And our change program stands for challenging historically accepted notions for greater expectations. And it's just a spirit that says, no matter the conditions you were born into, you can believe and perceive that you can be bigger than that box, that you can challenge historically accepted notions for greater expectations. So now I'm the founder of this cool nonprofit. We are almost 3 years old, and we provide no cost services to youth in diversion and adults in transition from incarceration or from treatment.
Congratulations. Wow. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fired up about it. And then I get to also, as a consultant, so I have a consulting firm as well, and I come alongside of business owners and employers and HR professionals, and just use my gift of communication and personality to just have a conversation and provide some education and help our society to feel safer with working with ACEs and justice impacted people. So I get to consult on inclusive hiring practices, help with recruitment and retention and culture. And it keeps me very busy and very fulfilled with TLC services and Hurdle Life Coach Foundation.
Dale says, Terry, I used to regularly speak at prisons, as I have known many individuals who have made mistakes, many who I connected with in prisons I have stayed in contact with even after they've been released, and have programs to help them re-energize and restart their lives. Re-energize and restart.
I love it. I love it.
Those are good words to add. Re-energize and restart.
Re-energize, restart, recover, rebuild, restore, reimagine. I really am thankful to have such a platform today, Jason. And I really want to invite anyone who's listening and can see me as an asset to your community in any way to please reach out, because this fills my cup to be able to use my story and my experiences to help my community, but also other communities as well. This is so very cool.
Reach out how thehurdlelifecoach.com.
HurdleLifeCoachFoundation.org is the website, but I would encourage you to just reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or Facebook, and that would probably that would be the most effective.
What's the easiest way to find you on LinkedIn and Facebook?
It would be with my name, Terry Liggins. It would pop right up, Terry Liggins, MPA on LinkedIn, and then Terry Grateful Liggins on Facebook as well. And Hurdle Life Coach Foundation is on Facebook as well.
So I would be totally remiss if I didn't ask you two more questions. For people who don't know, what is DE&I?
DE&I stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity is just a way of saying differences. The way I define diversity, it just means differences. And every one of us have unique differences. So every one of us benefits from diversity advocacy. Diversity advocacy is not just about some of the traditional ways we might look at the word. It's for all of our uniqueness, and every one of us have a uniqueness to ourselves. And so diversity actually supports all of us. Equity is this effort and this initiative to help to level the scales for populations of people that didn't get the same start line as some other population of people. Sadly, but true, we are living in a country that didn't get it right in the beginning. There are some things that they did well, but there's some things that they did not do well. When the African American race was enslaved because of their race, that was not right. That was not okay. When women couldn't vote, that was not right. That wasn't okay. And when the Native American was treated the way they were treated, that was not right. That was not okay. And when we come to that agreement that that was not right and that's not okay, now what we choose to do today is equitable action to help to advance the marginalized population of communities. And I just named 3, but there's more communities as well. There's the disabilities community as well. There's the elderly. There is the gender equity and fluidity. There's a lot that we as a society still have ground to make up to ensure that everyone has equal access. And so that's what equity is. And then inclusion is just making sure that everybody has a voice at the table, that we're not leaving anyone out. Be that this society, this community, this world belongs to us all, not just one dominant race or dominant culture. That we all are created equal, and that we all are inherently good people, and we all deserve to be heard, seen, felt, and given the opportunity to lead in our communities in where we live.
What an excellent explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm asking this last question because I can see from our talk for an hour, it has served you so well as seeing you speak before. But tell me about your experience with Toastmasters.
You mean the club that you're going to come visit next week?
Yeah, next Monday. Yeah.
So cool. Well, Toastmasters International is a club and an organization that's been around for a very long time. In several communities in many countries, Toastmasters is a club, a community club where people who desire to become more effective speakers and leaders can come to learn in a shared community. What we do at Toastmasters is we assign different roles in the meeting. The Toastmaster is a role. We have a WAG master, which is a person who assigns a word of the day, counts the ahs and ums that you present with, and also recognizes when you do really good job with the English language, and that's called grammarian. So that's called the WAG master. And then we have.
What are the biggest things you've learned from Toastmasters that have helped you?
I think it's more that the more repetition that you apply in anything, you become better at. And so Toastmasters is a place where you can go and get the reps in as a communicator and become a stronger communicator just from the reps alone. If you don't do anything else, but you just practice, you're going to get better.
So in a way, it's a lot like, I assume practice for hurdling would be you just would practice it over and over again.
Or free throws.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The more free throws you shoot, the better you're going to get at them. So when you come to Toastmasters, you get opportunities to speak in front of a group in a safe and fun environment, and you become better just from the reps alone.
So in my work, I talk a lot about the power of doing an imperfect best, and we've been talking about it in ways all over. But what it means to me is we envision the best we want and go towards it, but when we make mistakes, we learn from them and move forward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Ted Liggins?
I think you nailed it, Jason. It means exactly that. It just means that, we can have that goal to succeed, or we can have that goal to overcome. We can have that goal to arrive and to become. But along the way, you're guaranteed to fall, to fail, and to make some mistakes. And that's okay. To be your imperfect best, that's the human experience. What I would call that is hurdling life. What I would say is, along the way between you and your finish line, there's going to be obstacles and barriers that come inside of your way, but you have what it takes to hurdle life, to get over that obstacle and barrier, and to become stronger because of those adversities, and not defined by them, but empowered and fueled by them.
Empowered and fueled by them. Thank you, my new friend, for coming on today. And I just learned so much, and I know that people watching will learn a lot too. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for just doing this and everything that you're doing. When I looked into how much you've already done, I was so impressed. The fact that I'm episode 1, 2, 3, I really feel like there's something divine about that order, that I get to be a guest way down the road. So, Jason, you've done so well with everything that has happened to you. You continue to inspire so many people, and I'm included. I am one of the now new people that you have inspired, and I just think I just had such a good time being here with you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, my friend. If you want new amazing experiences, find people who have different life experiences from you, and who are kind, and and then just talk to them for an hour and ask questions and be very interested and see how much you learn. I learned so much from Terry in the last hour, and I hope you did too. Thanks so much for tuning in. Your time is valuable and a gift. Thanks for spending some of it with Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. And next week, Dr. Tim Braithwaite, Dr. Tim Ridgway, the dean of the University of South Dakota Med School will be on, and I'm very excited to talk with him. For some reason, I keep thinking Braithwaite in his head, but it's in my head, but it's Dr. Tim Ridgway. Until then, have a great week. Talk to people around you. Have fun. Oh, bye. Yeah. Oh, thank you.